So with the unfortunate announcement from show creators that Smiling Friends will be concluding with this third season, the final 2 episodes aired last night. And one of them asked a pretty interesting and relevant question. Could an AI actually do the job of the Smiling Friends? The central premise of Smiling Friends has always been really simple. The team goes out on jobs to try to cheer people up and make them smile. Not to fix their lives completely or cure their depression, just to get them to smile once by any means possible. And often what gets people to smile isn't what you'd expect. And oftentimes, the Smiling Friends have had to go to really extreme lengths to get people to cheer up and smile. But this episode challenges that idea by introducing Friendbot, a robot who can seemingly do their job faster and more easily and efficiently than any of them. The episode starts with Charlie and Pim on a typical job, where they find a man who's completely checked out of his life after offloading every task to Friendbot. After bringing the robot back to the office, each character begins interacting with it in ways that perfectly line up with their personalities. Alan uses Friendbot to take care of his mundane responsibilities like taxes, which lets him focus more on his creative interests. Charlie, being the slacker we know him as, immediately starts dumping all his responsibilities onto the robot so he can just relax and lounge. Mr. Boss, in typical unhinged fashion, finds a much more perverse use for the robot. The only one who really pushes back on Friendbot is Pim, and it makes sense because Pim's always been the most emotionally invested in the job. He doesn't just want to make people smile and care about the outcome, he actually enjoys the process of helping them and the person-to-person connection. There's real meaning in it for him. So when Friendbot tells him that it can make people smile more efficiently, he's faced with the dilemma of whether he should hold on to something that gives him meaning or step aside in favor of something that could help maximize smiling for more people. Then chaos erupts as everyone starts fighting over the particular services that Friendbot offers and how they need them urgently. Before things get too out of hand, Glep, who was cautious about Friendbot from the very beginning, pulls the cord on him, and the Smiling Friends reconcile. Of course, in typical Smiling Friends fashion, there's always a twist reveal at the end, with Friendbot actually being a guy underneath the costume, acting as a robot just to make friends. This wasn't my favorite of the Smiling Friends reveals, but it's another classic example of the typical structure of Smiling Friends episodes, where they always end with a big reveal or twist that recontextualizes the entire episode. As usual, I don't think this twist at the end of the episode is completely random and just there for shock factor. There's usually some message underneath it. So I think in this case, there being a human underneath Friendbot might signify that even something that seems perfectly efficient, beneath it all there's still a human desire for connection, which was sort of the main contrast that Pim was drawing to everyone else compared to Friendbot throughout the episode. But then again, I do have a habit of theory crafting and always looking for hidden messages and themes in Smiling Friends, so I could be wrong. Overall, I think this was another solid addition to Season 3 of Smiling Friends, as I really enjoyed each way the characters interacted with Friendbot. It felt very aligned with their typical character and personality, and it just made a lot of sense. I'm really sad to see Smiling Friends wrapping up with this season, but I'll be making a few more video essays and short reviews reflecting on the final episodes. As always, thanks for watching.